Hello, Escaping the Matrix Part 4, your education, or lack of it. And even if you had a good education, why is it not working for you? Or is it? Maybe you're one of the elites and it does work. I'm going to be talking about this in this episode. If you're new to my channel, maybe subscribe. If you like this sort of stuff, then hit the like button, and if you don't, hit the dislike button. Now, what am I talking about? The education that most of us get doesn't teach us so much what we think it teaches us. Sure, we pick up some facts, or maybe we learn other lessons and don't pick up much in the way of facts. But think about normal school. You go there, you work on whatever it is, then 45 minutes or 90 minutes later the bell rings, and no matter what you're working on, no matter how important or unimportant or interesting or boring it seems, when that bell rings you drop it and you maybe have to move to another classroom. In any case, you have to pick up some other topic and do something else. Then 90 minutes later the bell rings, drop it all, go and do something else. Again and again and again and again. Thousands of times during your school career. What have you learned? Think of Pavlov's dog. Pavlov was a psychologist who trained dogs by feeding them and ringing a bell, and then he would feed them. Okay, and eventually he was able to discover that he would just ring the bell and not feed them, but still they would salivate, expecting food. They had associated the bell with the reward. Now in school, you associate the bell with dropping what you're doing and going to do something else. You learn that everything you are doing, everything you can do, everything you will do is unimportant. Even though constantly they're telling you, this is important, you must do your schoolwork, you must get your qualifications, you must use them to get a good job. The actual lesson is the opposite of what they're saying, and maybe the smart kids are the ones we think are the dumb kids. They realise quickly that school is going to teach them nothing useful, and they don't pay attention for 10 years and they come away with nothing. Well, they take their lesson too far, obviously. I didn't take the lesson that it was all unimportant. I got my O-levels in Britain, about, 9, mostly Bs. I did maths, physics and chemistry at A-level, which is advanced level. I guess that's kind of like high school in America, up to age 18, and then went to college, university, got myself a physics undergraduate degree, which I've not really used directly since, but I've been in sort of technical subjects all the time in terms of my jobs. So that's fine, but it's narrow. And looking back, much of what happened at school was a complete and utter waste of my time. And I think that's deliberate. That's part of the system. That's the way it's planned. For most people, we are meant to be job fodder and cannon fodder, basically. The system is obsolete, but it's still churning out on this basis. With that bell ringing and teachers telling you to sit down all the time, you kind of learn that your place is to obey orders. All your imagination gets, well, not quite eliminated, but certainly suppressed. Your originality, your curiosity, you do very well if you get through school with all of these things intact. Very few people do. You come out of school and really, many people never look at a book again. and that's bad because there are some good books, and even the good books you're shown in school, which you are made to become bored with, if you were studying them on your own basis, you might get somewhere with them. Even the play is regimented with team sports and competition, and with the subject says gold stars and all this business. And you are actually not learning the important things. And I'll come to those later. The main purpose of school, you can see from the whole way it's structured, is to dumb you down and make you to socialise you so that you are controllable, basically. And yet, for the good of humanity, we should not be dumbed down and lacking in imagination and initiative. Quite the opposite. But this does help the elite to maintain their position, of course, in control of the rest of us. So maybe it has something to do with that. After all, they set up the systems. And even with interesting subjects, really all you're being asked to do is memorise information. I mean, sure, they ask you questions and they guide you to think about it yourself. But you have to provide the answers they want. Otherwise it doesn't count, does it? So you're memorising someone else's connections and facts and idea of what's important and valuable, rather than your own. So your own creativity is channelled and effectively close to turned off, really. By the time most people have left school, it's gone. So, how would you get a good education? I mean, if you're not yet starting school, what are you watching this for? That's pretty good. But maybe your parents are watching this. How would you get into a good school, an elite school? You might need to have a load of money, but not necessarily. They do scholarships as well for the right people. What are they looking for? They want to know when they're interviewing, are you someone who could get famous? Are you someone who could get rich? Do you have a record, a history of excellence? Have you added value to other people? Remember, we're talking about interviewing at school. We're talking about interviewing, 16-year-olds for the elite colleges, or 18-year-olds maybe. Have you added value to people? Have you done anything interesting in the world, in society? Have you made your own movie? Do you have a YouTube channel which is influential and doing important stuff in some way? Have you made it into the newspapers in a positive way anyway? All sorts of things like this. And your hobbies. Do you have a range of interesting hobbies, whatever they may be? We're kind of told to take this section off our CVs, but it's absolutely wrong. That the more elite-orientated people always look at this. It's the most interesting bit. Do you have a range of interests? And if you do any sports, preferably not a team sport, because that's regimentation and narrowed thinking. But maybe, but preferably not. Individual sports with a little element of danger in them. Something to show your independent, fearless spirit. Canoeing, horse riding, whatever. Something bobsleigh, I don't know. Something a little tough. Okay, they're looking for this sort of thing. And it says a lot about your personality if you can do them. Me, I tend to hate sports, but then I hated the team sports actually at school. The individual ones were fine. Archery, I enjoyed that, stuff like that. But there you go. We didn't do much of it. The same actually goes for jobs. You're always advised, take your hobby section out of the CV. Well, sorry, that's actually wrong for the better jobs. And the other thing is, both for interviews for colleges and for jobs, the key thing is not so much your qualifications, it is, could we work with this person? Is this person likeable? Do we want them around? Would we find them insufferable? And that's why when you get rejected for a job or something, you kind of take it personally, because you might say, oh well, okay, I didn't have the right qualifications. But in a way, it's more personal than that. They didn't like you, perhaps, and maybe you see that. But we are not taught how to be anything other than job fodder, mundane clerks and things of that sort. I mean, your time at school is spent essentially doing needless paperwork, and much of it is wasted, as I mentioned. What is taught could be taught in easily a third of the time. People could leave school by the age of 12, frankly, and historically that was the case. Thomas Edison did, Thomas Jefferson, running a plantation of 250 employees and slaves when he was 12. Right, I mean, things were different then, and there's more technical stuff to know now. But really, it's extended too long and is way too inefficient, and that's probably deliberate, as I say, to render us dependent. We never grow up. We're children always, because we don't become independent ever. So what is not taught? What should we be being taught then, if we were actually to get on and be a big success, an influential type success in society? Now, part of this is my own thinking, and part of this has come from John Taylor Gatto's 14 Themes of the Elite Private School Curriculum from tragedyandhope.com. You can see his ultimate history lesson there, 5 hours of video. It's very good stuff, though. So part of this, as I say, is my own thinking as well. We are not taught a lot of very important life skills, like how to create lifelong allies and networking and things of this sort. We're kind of expected to pick it up. In fact, we're expected not to. And in our jobs, which used to be one place for life, except that, of course, people would die young of diseases, so in fact you would have a constant turnover of people even then. Now, we have a constant turnover of people because we change jobs rapidly. The average job in Britain at the moment lasts about 2.5 years, apparently. And certainly from places I've worked, the turnover is often in the region of 30 to 40% of the staff every year. And you can't keep in touch with people that you don't have much in common with, especially when we are not taught those skills. I mean, LinkedIn and stuff is pathetic and doesn't work as a substitute. It's poor substitute, let's put it this way. The occasional thumbs up for somebody is not the same. Right. We are not taught independent thinking. In fact, it's actively discouraged in our schools. Anyone who thinks independently is a nuisance, because they'll come up with new ideas which the teacher doesn't understand, and it'll make him look stupid. No, you shut up and get on with your work, right? And you might think, how else would you control a class of 30 kids? Well, perhaps you couldn't, but perhaps if they were doing something interesting and relevant, it wouldn't be necessary either. And anyway, they would be out of school and doing something useful in society if the system was working properly. So one thing that isn't taught is entrepreneurship, for example. The powers that be don't really want us all to be independent thinking entrepreneurs. Sure, we can be a small business owner and have a self-employed job where we are working all the time. It's okay, but they don't really teach it to us. And really the laws of business are skewed towards the giant corporations, who are taxed less than the little people. and are taxed even, and the little people are taxed less than the tiny people, the job-seeking employees. So, as your rich dad would tell you if you read the Rich Dad books. We are not taught how the institutions of our societies work and how to use them for our benefit. How would you go about reversing a council decision, for example, or a committee decision that's been made by one of their committees? Do you know? How would you go about suing someone effectively in the courts? You might have a vague idea, oh, I can go and pick up a form and do it, but do you know actually how to make sure that you'll win? How to collect the right sort of evidence? I bet you haven't been taught that. We haven't been taught active literacy. There are schemes for primary school children called active literacy. They're all over Google, and you can't actually find the real stuff. I went through all 20 pages of a Google search and found a couple of links to John Taylor Gatto, but that was about it. Active literacy is not the same as literacy. Literacy is like being able to read and write. Okay, fine. And there's literacy relating to certain subjects as well. Computer literacy and so on, where you know how to use the machines. Okay. But real active literacy, which used to be illegal to teach the common classes, the hoi polloi, because it gave them too much power, is the ability to speak in public. That's active. The ability to express your ideas and persuade people in public, the art of rhetoric, the ancient art of rhetoric. And active writing, the ability to express yourself in writing on any topic. In the top colleges, and some of them, what they do is make the students provide, I think weekly, maybe daily in the toughest ones, 300 words on any topic as an exercise. 300 words, write it down. That's about 2 sides of something like A5, 2/3 of an A4 sheet of paper, something of that sort. It's not a lot of writing, but can you write 300 words in good grammar? Because it won't be persuasive if it's gibberish, right? On any topic. Repeatedly, try a different topic at random every day and write 300 words, whether you know anything about it or not. That's the exercise. Express yourself. Get it out. Verbally, in writing. We're not taught that. We're taught to regurgitate facts at best. But if you want to be influential and persuade people, talk in Parliament or something like that, you need to be able to speak proactively and think on your feet as well sometimes. We're not taught these skills at all. They're crucial to being an influential person. Life skills in general, these are all life skills. The social graces. How to say please and thank you and all this, we know it, kind of. But what we don't realise is that these skills are what the elite use to create allies. Your future helpers are people that you have done favours for and that you have been verbally nice to in the past. People aren't taught that it's self-interest. They're just taught, oh, you must do this, it's polite. Well, okay, it's polite. But there is a good, strong self-interest argument too. You treat people well, they can be your helpers in the future. Isn't that obvious? So you go to these elite colleges, you make your network of allies, and you keep them in your network permanently, because a lot of those are going to become influential people. And they can help you, and you can help them. And that's how it works. But for most people, our friends come and go. Our allies come and go. And the networking is to no effect anyway, because none of these people are influential in any major way. They might get us a job once or twice. That's good. That's something. And that is how it works. But if you're going to one of the better colleges, or even an ordinary college, try and keep a better network, right? Because it will help you. And the other skill which is often not taught is the art of skepticism. We should be skeptical primarily of three things. One, the mainstream media. We should be skeptical of their analysis, of their facts often. Just realise that this is part of the bread and circuses meant to pacify us, to stop us thinking. I mean, when we're bored, what do? We turn to the news, BBC News, Google News, whatever, CNN, whoever. But we're not really gaining any useful information from it, are we? Most of it is garbage. There's stuff that's interesting is the long-term historical trends that are visible in it. But the day-to-day bickering of this or that politician is of neither here nor there, really. And a lot of what is told to us as factual analysis is actually just repeating what this or that government wants us to hear. It's government spokesmen being reported. That's propaganda, in short. This is actually what the Roman schools used to teach. Crowd control was their primary subject for the emperors and the elites. And in the medieval schools they taught the trivium, logic, rhetoric and grammar. Because these things are actually important. So skepticism of the mainstream media. Also, skepticism of the conspiracy theorists. Because a lot of what they say is garbage too. And how do you separate fact from fiction? You have to learn to think, logic, rhetoric, grammar, and you have to find primary sources wherever you can and try and track back to where these facts come from. And are they opinion or are they verifiable in some way? That's the only way you can tell. Because people can make persuasive arguments out of nothing. They've learned the art of rhetoric to suit themselves. But how do you know? Okay, you've got to get to the ultimate facts. And three, you have to be skeptical of your own ideas. Are your own ideas based on facts? Do you have enough facts? Could it be you're seeing just part of the picture? And come back to what you used to think. Was I correct? Have things turned out as I expected? Why was I right? Why was I wrong? Just because you think of something doesn't mean it's true. So when you come up with an idea about something, pause and try and think of another idea about something, about the same thing. Another way of looking at it. Your first idea may be compelling, but it may be rubbish. Okay, have I missed anything important out? You can go to tragedyandhope.com and look up John Taylor Gatto's 14 Themes of the Elite Private School Curriculum for the full list. These are things that we all need to teach ourselves because we're not being taught them, in my opinion. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Am I talking nonsense? Leave a comment below. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you don't like it, hit the dislike button and leave a comment to let me know why. And subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I'll see you in another video sometime. Bye for now.